on planet Nigeria and tell this conference, this national summit, is live on our major network television stations. They come in and watch. At this stage, I'd like to call on a third member of the team, a reluctant member of the team. He has been, we've been pushing him to come up and participate. He is trying to hide behind his eloquence to say a few words. The National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Barrister.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are here for very important matters. In less than no time, we will get started. Just a few housekeeping issues. First is that within the precincts of this building, there is sufficient security, sufficient human security. I can also assure you that there is sufficient spiritual security. But despite the use of both, you still need to take care of your own security. And therefore, I'll introduce that this hall, the restrooms are to the exit, are to the rear. When you get there, you make a left from where I am. So immediately you're facing the door behind. The restrooms will be to your left. There are exit doors all over, but for the purpose of this, there are 2 exit doors there. In the unlikely event of any emergency, please leave your bags, leave things, and just head to the 2 exits there. But that will not be very needed. The one you really need to know is where the restrooms are, because intermittently you may have to make use of them. So they are at the rear of this building. It's a new facility and things are working very well. Beyond that, this is a meeting of like minds, a meeting of subsets coming together into a whole. So you may find people with different identities, but with one ambition. So we may have different identities, which is the protection of democracy, which is the protection of the opposition, and which to ensure that we can take over power in 2027 so that our people, the people, can be safe. If you agree that that is the ambition that brought you here, give yourself a round of applause. If that is what brought you here. If that is what brought you here. And we are watching those who are not clapping because it looks like that is not what brought them here. So if you came here for the salvation of democracy and the opposition, please give yourselves a round of applause. A round of applause, please. I'd like to request that we resume our seats because we're already live on different televisions, AIT, NTA, channels, Arise, News Central. And the world is waiting for what will come out of this event. And we are lucky that we are part of the delegates who will take decisive decisions that we would have to look back in history and say, indeed, we took this decision. But I'd like to just mention the various political parties who are very, very well represented here. And let you know that immediately we have our guest and hosts coming in, that we will start events in earnest. First is the fact that we have as our hosts a gentleman we know, the forward-looking governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Engineer Sheyi Makinde. We also have, as the special guest of honor at this occasion, His Excellency, the former President of Nigeria, former military head of state, the first president in this Fourth Republic, His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR. He will serve as a special guest of honor at this event. We have the co-chairmen of this event, who are His Excellency Senator David Bonaventure Mark, GCON, and Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have participating political parties here, whom all of them will have the opportunity to speak to us and to declare their intention. We have from the PRP, the NMPP, the NDC, Labour Party, APP, Accord, APM, AA, DLA, YP, ADP, and Z Labour Party. So all of these parties whose flags are represented here will, in the course of this event, have an opportunity to speak to us. But who are the speakers that we are expecting to hear from today? It is a very packed event with A-list speakers here. Professor Chidi Odinkalu will be speaking with us. The very cerebral, irrepressible Professor Patutomi, who is already in the building, will be speaking to us. Barrister Mike Igini, former resident electoral commissioner with INEC, will be speaking to us. Dr. Kabir will be speaking to us. And Dr. Uthman Bugaj will be speaking to us. When you go through that, you will see that it's a mix of theory and practice. When someone like Professor Patutomi speaks, he speaks from the depth of theory framework, but also mixed with practical experience. And therefore, today we're talking theory. We're also going to be sharing experience. So it is going to be knowledge sharing experience that will give us the opportunity to determine that we rise together as one to confront the adversaries that we have. We also must acknowledge and recognize the two gentlemen who have put in their time to lead the committees that led to the planning of this event. First, Dr. Kashim Ibrahim Imam, who with Professor Jerry Ghana were co-chairmen of the planning of this event. And so if your hands are not too busy, you're happy that please give them a round of applause. Dr. Kashim Imam, please take the applause on behalf of your brother, Professor Jerry Ghana. And both of them are tall. So I think the qualification chairmanship was height. And that is why some people were not considered. Thank you very, very much. As we proceed, we will introduce the large delegations of all the parties that have made it here. But I must also introduce Dr. Ajuji, who headed the Secretariat Committee and who is still busy trying to make sure that things happen well. Dr. Ajuji, we thank you. Senator Ireti Kingibe was earlier introduced, but because we are very sensitive, March just passed and the month of women. So we must keep introducing women. Aisha Yosefu is here with us. We are looking for as many women that we can to introduce. March just passed, and lessons from March must not go with March. It must stay with us because our women are important. Honorable Ebikake from the House of Representatives is here. We recognize you. We recognize all the women. We will take time to recognize women. Indeed, without women, they make 49% of our population, and they are the stable political base that any political party can have. Please give a round of applause for all the women who are here. A round of applause. If you were born by a woman, clap for a woman. If you are loved by a woman, clap for a woman. If you have a woman, big, small, old, clap for a woman. Ibrahim, you are not clapping. Ibrahim, were you born by a man? Please, let's clap for our women. Let's clap for them. Thank you very, very much. I'll just do a quick rundown of the topics as we wait your appetite and prepare. That immediately after now, Dr. Ledan will take the microphone again and continue with introductions, because introduction is critical in politics. People want their identities known and mentioned. And when you recall that human beings are subjects and objects of identity, you know that introductions are very, very important. The first plenary session, which will be moderated by Professor Jerry Ghana, CON, will be on the topic, Challenges of Sustainable Democracy and Good Governance in Nigeria. Challenges of Sustainable Democracy, Good Governance in Nigeria. That session will be handled eminently by Professor Chidio Dinkalu and Dr. Usman Bugaji. The second keynote address, which concerns all of us, will be on the topic, Ensuring Free, Fair, Credible Elections in Nigeria. I'm sure that is a session everyone will want to listen to. Will be handled by no less a person than a gentleman who spent 10 years of his time with the Independent National Electoral Commission. He served as rec in many states, and when he speaks with knowledge and authority combined with experience. Barrister Mike Igini will be the person who will be doing the speaking on the topic, Ensuring Free, Fair and Credible Elections in Nigeria. The second plenary session, which will be chaired and moderated by Dr. Kashim Ibrahim Imam, will be on the topic, the tragedy of widespread insecurity in Nigeria towards the restoration of peace and security. The challenge, the tragedy of widespread insecurity in Nigeria towards the restoration of peace and security, which will be taken by Dr. Kabir Adamu, CEO of Beacon Security and Intelligence. The fourth keynote will be taken by Professor Pat Utomi, who is already in the building. He'll be speaking on building a productive, dynamic, and efficient national economy for Nigeria. Which way forward? And you can agree with me that there are very few people capable of addressing this practically. And Professor Pat Utomi is eminently qualified in that regard. And I'm sure that we will get sufficient fruits from what he will prepare for us. He is the founder of the Center for Value in Leadership. We really need value in leadership, and we know that Prof will do an excellent work. The next plenary, which will be chaired by His Excellency Dr. John Oyegun, the former governor of Edo State, will be on the framework for building a grand alliance for the 2027 elections and massive mobilization strategies to ensure widespread support. And this is very important because we need to build a broad-based alliance for the 2027 elections. And talking about alliance, I see the former Honorable Minister for Information and co-chairman of the planning committee of this function, Professor Jerry Ghana. A round of applause, a round of applause, a round of applause, a round of applause. Professor Jerry Ghana, you are most welcome. And at the end, this summit will have resolutions. We'll have resolutions and a communique that will be our take-home. So I just did that to show you the things that are most likely going to happen here, to prepare your mind to engage. You're not just coming to listen, you're also coming to contribute to the discourse that will happen here. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the next few minutes after Dr. Ladan's introduction of more dignitaries that have made their way here, we will commence in earnest because we need to spend but not waste time. So in this hall, we have a mixture of business people, politicians, academics, activists, people who have run for elections successfully, others who have run unsuccessfully but have learned the lessons. And we must put all of those experiences together if 2027 must be a reality for us. And I'm sure that is why people like Aisha Yesufu has agreed to be here, to ensure that the lessons of the past can count for something in the future. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I return to the microphone my brother and friend, Dr. Ladan.
Thank you so very much for this elaborate description of today's event. You've led us into the nitty-gritties of our event. As my colleague and brother was making his presentation, two eminent Nigerians walked in. One of them, a former minister of the Federal Republic, a former chairman of the National Orientation Agency, in fact, the first chairman of the agency, Professor Jerry Gana, walked in. Please put your hands together for our amiable professor. I will wait if you will clap for him for a second time. Of course, if you miss his name, you wouldn't miss the height. The former senator from Nasarawa State and currently the chief of staff to our national chairman, most distinguished Senator Suleiman Adokwe, may I also recognize members of the House of Representatives from Oyo State that are currently seated with us. Right Honorable Zikrullah Adedeji Olajide, Honorable Anthony Adepoju, Honorable John Oyekunle, and Honorable Abbas Adigun. May I also introduce a very close associate, a friend, a leader, and someone whose handiwork in the politics and governance of Bauchi State are written in gold. A member of the National Working Committee of the PDP and a former chairman of the PDP in Bauchi State, Malam Alhaji Dr. Hamza Koshe Akuyam, my friend, my brother. I'll wait if you will clap for Hamza Koshe Akuyam. May I also recognize a lady of quality, or ladies of quality. They are members of the board of directors of the PDP, Chief Mrs. Inikbeko Oshodi, Hajia Farida Umar, Hajia Farida Umar Hamid, who is the Deputy National Publicity Secretary. Am I right? There's a gentleman in politics in Edo State that is hugely connected to the government and people of Oyo State. I want to repeat this. There's a gentleman from Edo State who is hugely connected to the governor, the government and people of Oyo State. And his name is Honorable Dr. Tony Azigbemi, the former chairman of the PDP in Edo State. Would you like to stand up to be recognized? I'll tell you a little story about him. I was privileged, together with Alhaji Hamza Koshe Akuyam and Governor Sheyi Makinde and the former governor of Zamfara State and the present governor of Bauchi State, Senator Bala Mohammed. It was Dr. Tony who led all of us in a process that produced the candidature of the immediate past governor of Edo State. And I was privileged to serve as the secretary of the committee that supervised the primaries of Edo North under the leadership of His Excellency Governor Sheyi Makinde. May I quickly recognize Chief Sunday Ogunlade, Dr. Sunday Sholari, and the Assistant National Organizing Secretary of the ADC Northeast, Honorable Adamu Tubo. Special recognitions to Barrister Silas Onu, former chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Ebonyi State, and chairman of the Election Committee, ADC Ebonyi. Engineer Jide Adeniji is an arrowhead in Nigerian politics, in and out of the boardroom, and is a man with a lot of caps. You can't miss him in a crowd. Honorable Adeniji, you're welcome. He's of course a former chairman of the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. And like my colleague did mention, do not, ladies and gentlemen, underestimate the significance, the importance of this day, of this moment. Do not, by any stretch of imagination, underrate the significance of this summit. And do not for any reason blink, because as you're seated, you will get to hear, participate and interact on and not a probable and not a possible, but by the divine intervention of God Almighty, what will be a journey from Oyo, from Ibadan, to the takeover of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by an amalgam of this coalition come 2027. If you believe in the power of the opposition, not only to spring surprises, but to make dreams of change possible in 2027, please clap for yourself. If you believe in the power of change, that change can make things happen, and happen for the common and for the greater good, please clap for yourselves. I can give you a sneak preview of the dignitaries that will be walking into this hall, because I was privileged to have our vehicle, making a detour into the waiting arena of this conference, which is the residence of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Governor Oluseyi Makinde. And in his house, it was almost impossible to contain all the dignitaries. And I can tell you that I have seen men of quality, men of quantity, men of variety, and along with them, ladies of esteem and excellence in the opposition movement. I remember seeing His Excellency Chief Olagunsoye Oyinlola. I also saw in the waiting area the former governor of Niger State, Alhaji Dr. Babangida Aliyu. I also saw His Excellency, the former governor of Kano State, the apostle and the proponent of the Konkwasiya movement, Alhaji Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. I also saw Dr. Babachir Lawal. Of course, the number of personalities, like I said, there's so many. Alhaji Tanimu Kabiru Turaki was also there, and a lot of other officials of the national working committees of all the participating political parties to this conference. So we are good to go. I can assure you that at the end of this conference, we shall have what will be a roadmap that will define the future of politics and governance in our great country. Barrister.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I can announce that very soon, very, very soon, we'll be started. I can also mention to you that His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi is within the building and would make his way in anytime soon. Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is also en route. Distinguished Senator David Mark is en route. But for some tone setting at the moment, may I invite the co-chairman of the planning committee, Dr. Kashim Imam, to please take the next 2 or 3 minutes to provide a tone setting for this event. As we welcome distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen who are already here, I had announced a while ago that His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi is in the building. He's making his way through the aisle in. His Excellency Alhaji Waziri Tambuwal is here with us. A galaxy of opposition figures in Nigeria will be gathering here. If your hands are not too busy, would you give a round of applause as His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi makes his way into the building? If your hands are not too busy. Right on the heels of that, and I'll please appeal that we clear the aisle because we are having a live broadcast. Please, can we clear the aisle? Let me now, former Minister of Youth and Sports is also here with us, former Governor of Cross River, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation. But let me most respectfully now invite Dr. Kashim Imam for the tone setting. Former Governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Rotimi Amechi, is here with us. Senator Akabondu is here. His Excellency Senator David Bonaventure Mark is here. Dr. Kabiru Tanimu Turake is here with us. I can announce arriving the Governor of Oyo State, the forward-looking Governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Engineer Oluseyi Makinde is in the building, accompanied by Kabiru Tanimu Turake, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We also have seen His Excellency Senator Rabiu Kwakwanso, the former Governor of Kano State and the leader of the Kwakwansia movement. Senator Austin Akobundu, you're welcome. We see you from here. Shall we please resume our seats so that we can start in earnest? His Excellency Aminu Tambuwal is in the building and we welcome him. The National Publicity Secretary of the ADC, Bolaji Abdullahi, is here with us. His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is also here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please allow the dignitaries to take their seats. It is important we allow the dignitaries to take their seats, please. While you take yours, we allow the press to clear the aisle. May we all rise for the national anthem. Before we take the national anthem, I'd like to request that members of the press kindly clear the aisle and be on the left or on the right side of this building, as we have discussed earlier. And ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may we please rise for the national anthem.
In brotherhood we stand.
still standing, may we please have the Oyo State anthem. No. Oyo State anthem. May we have a fine voice to come and render the Oyo State anthem for us? Okay, we are on. Please put your hands together for the Federal Republic of Nigeria and for the government and people of Oyo State. May we please clear the red carpet area. The red carpet area should be exited by our colleagues in the media, please. The red carpet area should be exited. Clear. Your Excellency, our chief host, Governor please, let's get a lot more. All right, sir. Your Excellency, our chief host, Engineer Sheyi Makinde, the Executive Governor of Oyo State, Your Excellency, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Wazirin Adamawa, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Your Excellency, the chairman of our great party, the African Democratic Congress, Senator David Mark, the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Alhaji Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, the chairman of all the collaborating and participating political parties, our esteemed secretaries and members of the national working committees of all the collaborating parties, I'd like to respectfully request you to bear with us. We will not render all the protocols because of the pressure on time and the need to dedicate the quality time we have to discussing the challenges that are germane to the political development and growth of our country. The issues that have to do with a robust and a resistant political opposition that will provide Nigerians not only a roadmap, but the project take over Nigeria politically in the year 2027. May I request you to please get seated, especially those of us in the middle of the aisle, because we will soon call on our chief host to come and give us the opening address. Please, I would like and I insist that people that are our dignitaries that are standing in the middle should please take their seats. And those of you who don't have seats can please, occupy the seats behind. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in inviting His Excellency Governor Oluseyi Makinde, I must quickly say this. We were here about 3 years ago to witness the convention or the conference of the NBA. What we saw of Oyo State and Oyo and Ibadan in particular, yesterday what we saw blew us away. The infrastructure, the roads, virtually every road in the capital city of Oyo State is tarred. Please put your hands together for His Excellency Governor Oluseyi Makinde. And to properly introduce him, I have my colleague and the son of the soil, who is very much at home with the protocols of Oyo State to do the invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Ladan. It gives me great pleasure to welcome upstage for the welcome address our chief host right here in Oyo State. Is the Vice Chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, and Executive Governor for your state. Please put a round of applause, make welcome His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde, FNSC, DSC, GSSRS. Seyi Eda! Mi ò gbọ́ Ìbàdàn náà ń pè bí Seyi Eda! Thank you. A round of applause for him one more time before he takes his speech.
Your Excellency, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, GCON. Your Excellency, former Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and National Chairman for African Democratic Congress, Senator David Mark. Let me also use my own national chairman, Barrister Tanimu Turaki SAN, national chairman of PDP, as a point of contact to recognize other national chairmen of various opposition political parties that are present here. Your Excellencies, former executive governors that are here present, the other distinguished leaders,
and members of the opposition political parties in Nigeria. Let me use Professor Jerry Garner, CON, as a point of contact to other distinguished keynote speakers for this effort-making occasion. Eminent personalities and invited guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ibadan, the political capital of the Southwest. Across Nigeria today, we're witnessing a level of political concentration that should concern all of us. A significant majority of state governments are aligned under one party. There are open efforts to consolidate legislative control under one party. At the same time, opposition parties are increasingly entangled in internal crises and legal battles that raise serious questions about their ability to function effectively. Taken individually, each of these may have its own explanation, but taken together, they point to a pattern where the space for real political competition is disappearing. This is not something that we should treat lightly. I don't want to think saboteurs are here. Well, this is not something that we should treat lightly, because democracy is not destroyed overnight. It is weakened step by step until people begin to feel it no longer works for them. Whether one agrees with this concern or not, it is no longer something we can dismiss. Because when opposition becomes ineffective, democracy itself begins to lose meaning. We must be clear about what this means. Well, let me apologize up front. This banquet hall is supposed to be work in progress, but I wanted us to use this place today. So I asked them, whatever it will take, we must be inside this government banquet hall. So it's possible that they still have teething problems, but we'll manage through. So there must be clarity about what we're witnessing, what it means for us. First, democracy is not defined by the success of one party. It is defined by the existence of real alternatives, by the ability of citizens to choose, and by the confidence that those choices matter. Once that disappears, what we have may still be called democracy, but it will no longer function as one. That this discussion is happening here in Ibadan is not by accident. Ibadan has always served as the political capital of the Southwest and indeed Nigeria. And let me sound a note of warning for those that are carrying on as if there will not be tomorrow. They should remember that Operation Wet here started from here. This is the same wild, wild west. Back in 1950, this city hosted a conversation that helped shape Nigeria's constitutional future. Those discussions were not perfect, but they were necessary. They were driven by a recognition that the structure of a nation must be deliberately built, protected, and when necessary, debated. In many ways, this gathering we're having here today carries the same responsibility. Let me also be clear about what this meeting is not. It is not a gang-up against one man. And it is not about individual ambition to be president. It is about the collective ambition of the Nigerian people to have a democracy that is properly defined. This is a gathering about something more fundamental: the survival of a system that allows Nigeria to remain open, competitive, and accountable. Because democracy without opposition is not democracy. It is a slow drift towards a one-party state. And Nigeria must not make that drift. The truth is simple. No matter how strong any party becomes, no matter how popular any government may appear, the presence of credible opposition is not a threat to democracy. It is what sustains democracy. If we allow opposition to weaken, whether by design or by neglect, then we all bear the consequences. So this is not a moment for fragmentation. It is not a moment for silence. And it is certainly not a moment to disengage politically. It is a moment to think clearly, to speak honestly, and to act with a sense of responsibility that goes beyond party lines. Nigeria has come too far to pretend that this does not matter, and the responsibility to ensure that it does not go further than it should belongs to all of us. So I welcome you to Ibadan, and I wish us a successful deliberation. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure that is how you clap for a good host. Give him a beautiful round of applause. His Excellency Engineer Oluseyi Makinde, Governor of Oyo State, and our host. Just before we introduce the next item, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is good to highlight the fact that deciding to host this is a choice Engineer Makinde has made, and is well aware of the consequences of that choice. But we remember that there is the argument whether we are made by history or whether we make history. today gathered in this hall, all of us have decided to dictate to history, because history itself is recording. If you agree that you are about to make history, give yourself a round of applause. May I now very quickly, because we will spend not wasting time, move to the next item, which will be the opening addresses by the co-chairman. But drawing from where Engineer Makinde has gone historic, where he went on to tell us what people in the past did when they faced a similar situation. Today has always been historic. And today in 1959, the greatest civil engineering adventure was undertaken by human beings. And today you are about to take the greatest political engineering adventure in this country. On that day, St. Lawrence Seaway was officially opened, linking both the Atlantic Ocean and the Great Lakes. Today, you are gathered to create a linkage that Nigeria's political history would hear you. It is not in my mouth to say. It is in the mouth of the two gentlemen who have co-chaired these processes leading us to this momentous event. Let me therefore invite first, former President of the Senate, a distinguished gentleman in every right, a gentleman whose definition is about stability, about character, about principle, about consistency. Help me welcome, for his opening address, His Excellency, distinguished Senator David Bonaventure Mark, Chairman of the ADC. That's not how you clap for a man of integrity, a man of character, a man of principle. Your Excellency, sir.
Your Excellencies, Your Excellency, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, GCON, Your Excellency, the Chairman of PDP, Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our gathering here today is an urgent response to our nation's call to patriotic duty. My prayer is that history will remember us, that when the nation cried out to be rescued, all of us here answered. That when we heard the agonies of mothers, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Thank you. Our gathering here today is an urgent response to our nation's call to patriotic duty. My prayer is that history will remember us, that when the nation cried out to be rescued, all of us here answered. That when we had the agonies of mothers that just buried their children killed by bandits, all of us here answered. That when we saw the silent agonies of fathers and husbands who watched their daughters and their wives raped by terrorists, all of us here answered. That when children went to bed hungry, all of us here answered. History will ask us, what role did you play? All of us here, and millions who share our views and support us, but for one reason or the other are not here physically, will answer positively also. The call to rescue Nigeria is not a mere opposition slogan. The evidence is there for all of us to see. Across the length and breadth of our country, insecurity has become a defining feature of our daily life. From the avoidable protracted insurgency and terrorism, to the relentless banditry and mass kidnappings, to the steady rise of violent crimes in our urban centers, Nigeria faces a historic challenge. The statistics are very frightening. Nigeria is now ranked 4th in the Global Terrorism Index. Entire communities are uprooted, families shattered, and livelihoods are destroyed. Fear has taken the place of freedom, and uncertainty has replaced hope. Despite all the claims and posturing by government, the situation continues to get worse. Yet, the government, whose primary duty it is to protect the citizens, carry on with a shocking indifference, as if nothing is wrong. We are a nation that is constantly mourning, a nation crying out for leadership and protection. While these killings and kidnappings continue relentlessly, the APC-led government is behaving as if all is well. The government is preoccupied with election matters and politics of self-succession. The essence of democracy is to provide the people with a choice. When one government fails, like this government has woefully done, the Constitution of our land grants the people the power to vote the government out. However, with what we have witnessed in recent times, the ruling party has done everything to deny the people of Nigeria this very right to seek an alternative. In the last 3 years, this government has launched major attacks on the opposition parties. In the last 3 years, this government has launched major attacks on the opposition parties, all in a bid to deny the people the right to choose. They want to foist a one-party state on Nigeria. Institutions that should safeguard our freedom and protect the will of the people are increasingly under assault. The right of citizens to freely choose their leaders is being undermined. The independence of democratic institutions is being compromised. In fact, it is becoming increasingly difficult to describe what we have today as a fully functioning democracy in both form and substance. The task before us is nothing short of a national rescue mission. It is a mission born out of necessity, compelled by the suffering of our people, and driven by the urgency of the moment. I must emphasize, therefore, that this responsibility is far more important than partisan sentiment, personal interest, or personal ambition. What is at stake is greater than every single one of us. It involves sacrifice by every member in the opposition. I have no doubt in my mind that no single opposition political party, no matter how strong, can confront a system so entrenched and so determined to retain power at all costs. What we are faced with is a regime that has shown, in both words and in deeds, a willingness to weaken democratic structures and suppress opposition voices. Let's not make a mistake about this. The move towards a one-party state is rare. It has never happened before in this country, and it will not happen in our generation. The government has argued that it's not their duty to help build the opposition. Yes, they are right. Nobody has asked them for that favor. They call what they are doing to opposition political parties strategy. I call it tyranny. But is it their duty to destroy the opposition, as they have brazenly attempted to do? Can one do what they have been doing and still claim to believe in democracy or to be a Democrat? The answer is certainly no. We must not be in doubt. The forces that have sought to destabilize our various political parties will not stop. Even as we gather here, they are already scheming how to further undermine us and divide our ranks and sow seeds of discord among us. But we on our part must remember where the rain began to beat us. We must remember how we got to where we are today. We must remember what has brought us here. We must remain clear that we cannot confront the future as fragmented entities. We must be united to be able to salvage our nation. It is for these reasons that this gathering and our dealings must be anchored on honesty and integrity. We must put all our cards face up on the table and speak truthfully to one another. There must be no hidden agendas, no last-minute surprises, and no room for distrust. Perhaps more than anything else, the success of our collective effort depends on our ability to build and sustain trust. We are racing against time and operating within a limited window. The urgency of our situation does not permit repeated mistakes. We must be willing to rise above narrow sentiments and reject parochial attitude that has historically divided the oppositions in this country. This is the time to rewrite the story of coalition building in Nigeria. The record of the APC government is one of complete failure. What remains in its wake is an aggressive reliance on propaganda and a sustained assault on opposition voices. However, we will not engage in a contest of propaganda with them. We will not substitute truth for noise. Their reliance on propaganda only exposes a deeper problem, an inability to accept responsibility. Nigeria is watching, and Nigerians are watching. They have been through the spoke screen and the lies. They recognize a government that has failed to meet their expectations and shown no empathy for their sufferings. This is why, as we have repeatedly maintained, the struggle before us is no longer a conventional political contest. This contest is between the ruling party, APC, and the Nigerian people. APC is contesting against the mother who has just buried her child. APC is contesting against the father who works endlessly, yet cannot feed his family. APC is contesting against the young graduate who sees no future and against the pensioner who has been abandoned after decades of service to the nation. We are on the side of the people, and therefore, the Almighty God is also on our side. Recent changes within the economic management team are themselves a tacit admission of failure. When a system is functioning effectively, you do not replace leadership. Rejigging the cabinet at this late hour cannot save them from the verdict of the people. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me use this opportunity to emphasize once again that the credibility of our democracy rests with the neutrality and integrity of its electoral institutions. when the referee clearly and proudly wears the jersey of the other teams in a match he should be officiating, then the legitimacy of the entire process is undermined. In this instance, Nigerians have lost confidence in the electoral body called INEC. INEC is no longer an impartial umpire, and if nothing changes, Professor Ojo Amopitan is about to preside over the most distrusted election in the Nigerian history. The consequences are better left to imagination. Leaders of our great parties, let it be said loud and clear that at a defining moment in our history, when Nigeria stood at the edge of uncertainty, we did not falter. We did not allow personal ambition to override the desire of Nigerians for a better life. We did not collapse under the temptation of petty partisanship or self-satisfying ambitions. Instead, we chose unity over division. We chose sacrifice over self. And we chose country above all. Let this summit go down in history as the moment when everything changed. Let this be the beginning of a decisive movement, a movement that will restore dignity of our democracy, secure the lives of our people, and rebuild the foundations of our nation. I am very confident that if we stand together with conviction, discipline, and sincerity, no force will be strong enough to stop the will of the Nigerian people. May history remember us for our courage. History remember us for our sacrifice, and remember us for our resolve to save our democracy and our country. May it record that when Nigeria called, we answered with unwavering commitment. And when our people needed us, we did not falter, and we did not fail them. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
A round of applause for His Excellency Distinguished Senator David Mark. I'm sure he deserves a better round of applause, please. In his speech, he reminded us of the disposition of Barack Obama when he said, in every generation there is a defining moment. And he has reminded us that this is our defining moment. If you agree, say, oh yeah. This is that defining moment. Again, people write history. Again, people make history. But we know that at some point, history makes people. Therefore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Abraham Lincoln it was who said that men are the masters of both Congress and courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the people who pervert it. Let me therefore invite a gentleman whose life has been over 4 decades in the courts, a gentleman who has had the privilege of bearing the burden and the brunt of attack since November 15th. Incidentally, today is homecoming for him. In Ibadan, he emerged. Little did he know that he will be fighting, and you have to come back to Ibadan to fight those who are fighting him. Help welcome to the microphone, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party. A round of applause for him. Despite the fight, he has not lost weight. A special panel must be made to probe him.
Your Excellency, our host governor, the performing governor of Oyo State, His Excellency, Governor Oluseyi Makinde, Your Excellency, our most respected former Vice President and the Waziri of Adamawa, His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar GCOM. Your Excellency, the former Senate President and the Chairman of the ADC, and with that also to recognize all the chairmen of the opposition political parties that are here with us this afternoon. Distinguished opposition leaders in Nigeria, distinguished patriots, distinguished invited guests, distinguished members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, and distinguished Nigerians. No moment in our political history since independence best exemplifies Shakespeare's immortal proclamation in Julius Caesar, and I quote, "There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads unto a fortune. Omitted, all the void of their life is bound in shadows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures." Distinguished delegates, distinguished leaders, we are today at the cusp of history. The political stage is set. The dramatis personae are all ready, and time is passing and passing very, very quickly. But one thing is pending, which the world honestly awaits, and that is our action. That is our joint action. This is so important that even our inaction or refusal to act will be interpreted and recorded by us, by history, as an action. Never, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in our democratic history have we faced the asphyxiation of the opposition as we are currently witnessing. And never have we danced so carelessly on the brink of becoming a one-party state in this country. The current embattled condition of the opposition in our country is the result of a state-engineered crisis, tactically deployed to all opposition political parties, with the prospect of putting up a challenge to the lackluster performing APC-led federal government. We are gathered today with personal evidence of this onslaught. We are not speaking from hearsay, no guesswork, but from concrete life experiences, which we have gone through and which we are going through, and which, unless decisive action is taken by us, we will still be going through. A situation where renegade party members have been stupendously empowered to create problems within the rank and file of our parties, ultimately to use and to sue the party, leaving us very, very vulnerable. National institutions, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that are created as guardrails on the express lane of electoral democracy have all today either been captured or been seriously compromised. The consequence of this is that our nation has today been sent very close to the destination of either self-help or self-precipice, God forbid. Today, the perception of these critical institutions is at their lowest ebb, a point of almost no recovery. The trust deficit has not only increased, but has reached a historic level. Dear friends, dear colleagues, dear opposition leaders, dear patriots, there is an urgent need for us to act, and to act now. This moment calls for deliberate action in defense of democracy, action in defense of our citizenship, action in defense of principles and honor. Yes, this moment demands our collective action, which makes this summit most important and most appropriate at this time in our history. We must deploy knowledge, we must deploy tact and strategy to undertake the onerous but doable task of dislodging the non-performing APC-led federal government in the interest of the survival of democracy and for the purpose of emancipating ourselves and our fellow countrymen and women. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that by now all of us have reached a consensus that there is an urgent need to act and to act expeditiously. So I will very quickly leave us with questions, the answers to which should point us in the right direction at the end of this summit. Number one, what if our parties are taken away from us and given to their cronies as they have been boasting that they are going to do? Number two, what if the APC-led federal government continues to double down on the constriction of the political space against the opposition and the opposition political parties? Number three, what if the persecution of opposition leaders continues unabated? Number four, what if the non-performing ruling party and government, INEC, and other national institutions have concluded plans to make the country a one-party state? What if, and what if? The list of what ifs is endless, and you can add your what ifs. My top-of-the-mind solution is activation of a joint opposition framework. A framework which can be called either the Ibadan Accord or, if you like, the Ibadan Declaration. This accord or declaration will be a joint opposition platform where the defense of democracy will be the paramount interest. We must consider the parable of the single stick and the bunch of sticks. Breaking a single stick is the easiest thing that can be done. But when you get a bunch of sticks, then it becomes difficult, even for the strongest person to do. This, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is the task that is now facing us. To succeed, it is inevitable that we must come together. But in coming together, we must be guided by sense of equity, by fairness, by justice, by transparency, and by fear of God. This point has been raised earlier on by His Excellency, the Chairman of ADC, Senator David Mark, and there is no underscoring the significance of this. We must be seen to be dealing with ourselves and each other fairly, honestly, and justly. If we are accusing the APC-led federal government of being unfair, of being unjust, of being inequitable, then we certainly cannot allow ourselves, when we deal with ourselves and each other, to also be accused of what we're accusing them of doing. We must not build castles in the air or work on unrealistic assumptions. We must use data as a guide to our analysis and listen to the voices of the people. For us in PDP, we have resolved that we will open our ears and listen to what Nigerians want. And what Nigerians want is what we'll give to them. I will therefore want to urge on all leaders of other political parties today that are seated here, for us to agree to say that the first thing that we need to do in succeeding to dislodge the non-performing APC electoral government is for us to go back to the people. Let us go back to the people that they have left. Let us talk to the people. Let us listen to the people. Let us hear the people. Let us understand what it is that our people want. And then let us strive to make sure that we give to our people what our people want. That is what will guarantee success of what we are doing. As I end my brief address, I urge us to agree to the party burden with the resolve to work together to rescue Nigeria from the claws of this confused and confusing ruling party. Today, we have found ourselves caught in a situation where we are progressively retrogressing. And let me repeat that again. We today have found ourselves where we are progressively retrogressing. In other words, we are like on a treadmill. We are running and running and running. At the end of the day, are we going anywhere? We are not going anywhere. I cannot end this address without commending our host governor, the governor of Oyo State, and a proud product of my party, the PDP. Your Excellency, we are very proud of you. We are proud of you for standing up to be counted on the right side of history at a time like this. You have shown beyond question that you are indeed a true patriot who places national interest far above ethnic and other mundane issues. We are sure that this investment you are making in the sustaining of democracy, in watering the seed of democracy, in ensuring that the democratic space is widening and strengthening, is something by the special grace of God that will bring humongous returns to you, whether in the short course or in due course. Let me also admit that indeed there are other leaders in the opposition that have also been working like His Excellency to ensure that the opposition remains alive and that the project of making opposition work together, of strengthening the opposition, is something that becomes a reality. I would want to recall the governor of Bauchi State, Governor Bala Mohammed, and the chairman of the PDP Board of Trustees, Senator Adelpo Swabara GCON, all of whom are unavoidably absent in this great event. So we appreciate the sacrifices that they have made, and other leaders in other political parties that have been consistent in ensuring that Nigeria is not reduced to a one-party state. I must also commend all other political parties that have agreed to the convocation of this all-important summit, most of whom were contacted by agents and government and urged not to attend. That you've decided, in spite of this stupendous pressures on you, to attend shows that you have passed your first integrity test. We pray that we will all pass all subsequent tests that may be coming our way. In the end, I wish all of us fruitful deliberations and successful outcomes. But let us not forget that this is our time. Let us not miss it. Let us not also forget that if we do, our country will be doomed. God forbid. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.
Please put your hands once more for the national chairman of the PDP, Barrister Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me share a quick factual story about this event with you. It will take a minute. At the end of sorting out all the logistics of this conference last night, the protocol of His Excellency and other relevant officials, together with our chairman of the local organizing committee, secretariat, and other members, we were here through to 11 o'clock, and by 12 midnight, this setting was done. By 6 o'clock in the morning, somebody from the presidential villa sent the shots of this stage to some of us. Someone had already taken the picture of what we've done last night, and by the morning hours, it was sent back to us from the presidential villa. You can fact check that if mine is not true with Dr. Ajuji, who is the chairman of the local organizing committee. And so you ask the question, why is the APC afraid? And let's be blunt about it. The president said he's not afraid. But tell me for once to repeat after me. You must be afraid. Can I hear you, please? You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Aisha Yusufu speaking against you. You must be afraid if you have the apostle, the proponent, and the philosopher of the Conversia movement against you. You must be afraid. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Rotimi Amechi telling you all the statistics about your fraudulent government. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Aliyu, His Excellency, the former governor of Niger State, Babangida Aliyu, speaking against you. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Peter Obi speaking about your government and its profligate attitude. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Chief Rav also speaking about the way you mishandle government and governance. You must be afraid. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Professor Jerry Gana talking about the crooked ways in which you handle politics and policies of leadership. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have Governor Oluseyi Makinde coming out to tell you point blank that you are on the wrong side of history. You must be afraid. You must be afraid if you have distinguished Senator David Mark, a former Senate President of the Federal Republic, telling you all your dubious ways on the issues of leadership and governance. You must be afraid. And you must be afraid if you have Atiku Abubakar in the house. You must be afraid. May I, at this point, respectfully invite a representative of all the political parties that are attending and in attendance to this national summit to come and deliver a goodwill message on behalf of his colleagues. And I'm told that there is a consensus to that effect for want of time. To deliver that goodwill message on behalf of his colleagues, may I invite Honorable Bala Yunus Muhammad, the acting national chairman of NNPP.
Your Excellency, Engineer Sheyi Makinde, the Governor of Oyo State, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. It gives me a great pleasure, along with the national chairman of the opposition political parties present among us, present among the eminent Nigerians, to look at the state of affairs in Nigeria, generally in our dear country, especially the politics. As Nigerians, we are concerned about the way things are going in the country. The insecurity, economic policies are taking a heavy toll on average Nigerians. The rule of law is under heavy assault, with multi-party democracy is facing a serious threat in our country. For this reason, a gathering like this, which has leaders of political parties, statements in attendance must be cherished by every well-meaning patriotic Nigerian. Yes, time like this shares many souls. We should not give up. We have a responsibility to our children and even unborn generation to stand up and be counted. As we navigate towards the 2027 general election, although the process has begun, it is our duty to protect our democracy, the rule of law, which are the bedrock of any country development. Therefore, I salute the courage and wisdom behind this gathering. I pray that the deliberation we are going to have will signpost a new beginning of our great country. Thank you. God bless. Amen.
Thank you very much. I now very respectfully, Your Excellencies, grant your indulgence to every other person who is going to have the opportunity to hold this microphone. I will need to spend not waste time. Therefore, we are going to try to run very fast without missing anything. At this point, we are going to go to plenary session 1, which is chaired by Professor Jerry Ghana, CON. And I must inform you that we are going to skip Keynote address 1 and take 2. So with your kind permission, Your Excellency, may I now most respectfully invite first Professor Jerry Ghana, who will give a minute or two opening to signpost and foreshadow what is to come. But the gentleman whose duty would be to speak to us on ensuring free, fair, credible elections in Nigeria is none other than a gentleman who was first appointed in 2010 by President Goodwill as Resident Electoral Commissioner in INEC and reappointed on account of his neutrality and integrity by President Muhammadu Buhari. That gentleman is none other. He's a lawyer, a strong voice in advocacy, Barrister Mike Igini. But for now, help welcome co-chairman of the planning of this event and the chairman of Plenary Session 1, Professor Jerry Ghana, CON.
Your Excellency, the Executive Governor
of your state, Your Excellency, the Chairman of ADC, Your Excellency, the Chairman of PDP, Your Excellencies, all the other political party chairmen here gathered, Your Excellency, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellencies, former governors, former ministers, ambassadors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very, very much for your attention. We are moving quickly to session 1, and we are going to take a very important paper, although to be brief, but the issue is very, very important. In a democracy, the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections are very, very important. Democracy cannot be sustainable if elections are not free, fair, and credible. If elections are rigged, democracy will be ruined. If elections are manipulated, democracy will be diluted. Democracy is extremely dependent on the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections. And as you heard from our chairman, the chairman of ADC and PDP in their opening addresses, the current government is taking Nigeria in a very dangerous direction. And this is why we are delighted that you, very patriotic political leaders, have convened this summit. Kindly join me, put your hands together for this leader. Can I hear you? Put your hands together for them. And now I want you to kindly join me as we call a very, very knowledgeable, very courageous former resident electoral commissioner of INEC to speak to us on the issue of free, fair, and credible elections in Nigeria. I want you to join me as I welcome Barrister Mike Inguni. Can I hear you? Put your hands together for Mike. Where is Barrister? Keep clapping for Barrister. Barrister, you're welcome. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
10 minutes? Well, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Oyo State, and all the Excellencies here present, because of time, let me quickly share my reflection on the subject matter of free, fair, and credible election. I stand before you as a Nigerian who, though I left the commission in 2022, I did not leave the idea of Nigeria on question of how democracy will survive in our country. And so the invitation for me to be here, but for the caliber of men and women that have served this country, at some point, and for 2 years, I switched off about this country, and I deliberately put my television station on Chinese station so that I don't hear anything about the country. Not because I hear the Chinese language, but because I've been fed up by the things that I have seen in this country. And so I stand here, not in partisanship, not as a candidate, but as a Nigerian who is interested in seeing that democracy survive in our country. For 10 years, we were in the commission. We established systems, developed tools, process and procedures to ensure that we deal with the historical challenges of election service delivery in our country. As at the time we left office, we had used this system to conduct 105 elections, including governorship elections, using the technology that we have developed on account of the fact that any nation that fails to embrace technology will be overtaken by the chaos of decay and decline. There could be no other time than now to speak about free, fair, and credible election, given that the lights of democracy are going out in Nigeria, democracy that we all fought for. I was detained in Enugu State. I was declared wanted by the government or the military, Oyegu and 24 others, all because of this democracy. And so democracy must work. What gives spice and piquancy to the practice of democracy is the presence of opposition. Any democracy without opposition has in it a virus that may lead to its death. And that is why it's important for all to understand why there must be opposition in our party democracy. As we all know, every election is a test. I dare say that the 2027 election will be more than a test on account of what we are saying. It will be a verdict, but whether we have learned the lessons of the past and are ready to have free, fair, and credible election is up to us. We have the Electoral Act 226, we have the beavers, we have the IREC, we have the lessons of 2023. We have technology that are giving us tools. We have laws that are giving us rules. But as you all know, technology, rules are not themselves implemented. They require men and women of integrity to implement them. Because good laws, process and procedure that are not manned by men of integrity will take a country to nowhere. But inadequate laws manned by men and women of integrity will take a country somewhere. And that underscores the importance of election. Achieving credible, free, fair, and credible election is a multi-stakeholder responsibility. And as you all know, it's the responsibility of key stakeholders, and I identified 5 of them, out of which 3 are very key. You have the INEC, you have the judiciary, you have the security agencies, you have political parties, candidates, CSO, citizens. But indeed, the 3 key agencies that are very foremost are INEC, the judiciary, as well as security agencies. The trinity of these 3 agencies are enough to take the poetry of our election from that of manipulation and rigging, particularly the EMB, which is saddled with the responsibility to midwife democratic elections. May I say this here? The conduct of election is all-involving activity that nations embark on in peacetime, because the outcome of election has implications for national security. It has implications for stability and sustainability of democracy. And building democracy is a complex process, but elections are just playing the first stage. And therefore, it is periodic election that provide the people the opportunity to exercise their residual sovereignty, having given in the last election part of their sovereignty to a group of people to act on their behalf. Therefore, in an election that's coming, it now gives them the opportunity to be able to reject, to elect, to extend, or to elect those who they think should come and lead them. That is the whole essence of having election. And so the outcome of election, if not well managed, as we have seen in several parts of the world, particularly in African countries, in Kenya, where the outcome of election led to almost the country in turmoil. People were killed, houses were destroyed, and so many people found themselves in IDP camps, homeless, and many on forced migration on account of election. The governor just referenced the weightier experience in the First Republic, Second Republic. We are all living witness to what happened. A renowned publisher, Fagbengbe, was killed in Ondo State on account of election. So the question is, what are the key elements that constitute free, fair, and credible election? Two, globally, there are two broad indicators: process indicators, and number two, outcome indicators. Under process indicators, I will focus on only two elements because my paper contains everything because of time. The most important is the sanctity of law. The law that will govern the conduct of election. The landscape of election must be certain, must be unequivocal, must be clear to all and sundry, while outcome indicators will show whether the outcome of the election itself is actually credible or not. Now, with respect to the sanctity of law, which is the basis of some of the interventions I've made in recent times, in the course of preparing for this paper, I have found other provisions that are very troubling. And I wonder whether members of the National Assembly, they actually saw some of these provisions that I have found again just yesterday. And I need to go to those areas so that the essence of this engagement is to ensure that all the political parties that are here, you should be able to immediately go to the National Assembly to present a cornucopia of all these provisions for immediate amendment, because an amendment process could be 1 day, maximum within a week. Those of them who are in the House, we could see a number of them here. Now, I have, in my engagement, identified a number of provisions which are key to election. Whether we are ready for the 2027 election, these provisions have to be dealt with. Already, those that have identified that you have watched the television, on television, they are there already. That is number section 63, section 60, subsection 3, that has to do with transmission. Of course, by that proviso, and as the senior advocate and all lawyers that are here would have testified, that once you put a proviso to override the main provision, of course, that is what is going to be relied on. But what is more troubling is the fact that at the level of the balloting, where the will of the people should be expressed, that has already been sabotaged by virtue of section 62, subsection 3, which says that the ballot paper that will be used for the election that does not bear the official, mark. By official mark, you mean the various security features that are contained. So what you need to do, as was done in Ghana, when we went on intervention in Ghana, was that the political parties, all of them, decided to ask the EMB, where are you producing the ballot paper and the result sheet? If it's outside the country, that has to be audited. That has to be known where they are producing the ballot paper and the result sheet. That is very, very key for you to take home. Furthermore, if there was a projection, I would have shown something here. Unfortunately, we don't have that. I will just explain to you. As someone who spent 10 years, and I traversed almost the entire country in conducting election. Governor Leah Imoke's election, second term election, I presided over that election. That was the first time the Jega leadership piloted e-transmission. We sat in my office, the 18 local government of Cross River State, all the results were transmitted live in 2012. At that time, some of these provisions you have seen that I've identified, you still have some of them, but because we came in with integrity, with the decision that we must make democracy work in Nigeria, we circumvented all the rigging provisions that were identified as at that time. And that was why we were able to achieve that. And so, if you look at what they have said in section 137, This is important. Section 137 says that all the presiding officers, collection officers, returning officers that are going to conduct this election, that at the end of the election, if you are going to tribunal, it shall not be necessary to invite them to the tribunal to explain how election was conducted. It is actually been my view that the burden of proof of how election is conducted should be on the EMB. That it is unfair to say that a man who will return as the winner of election and petitioner will not be the one at the tribunal to explain how election is conducted. Whereas, who recruits ad hoc staff is INEC. Who print ballot paper is INEC. Who conducts election is INEC. At the end of election, who is the custody of election material? INEC. Who is in a better position to explain how election was conducted? And that's why I've already argued for inquisitorial method as is done in other parts of the world. It is to be INEC that come and explain. And that is why this is topic I'm going to take on to engage my constituency, the judges that look, Section 131 of the Evidence Act, Section 136 of the Evidence Act, Section 140 of the Evidence Act are very clear to the fact that if there is a dispute as to how a claim is made, the onus is on the person who is making the existence of a claim. For instance, if at point A, a party says the election was not conducted, that's a negative assertion. If at point B and the other person say election was conducted, it is the person who says that election was conducted, i.e. INEC, or the person who returned, should be the one to explain how that is done, and not the person who says it did not occur. I am going to give a better clarity to this in my engagement in the next few weeks. That is a message to the judiciary. Now, if votes do not count, election becomes a mere ritual without actually voting. My core message to you, as I round up, is that democracy cannot take place in the soil of absolutism. As political parties, you have a duty. You must, as quickly as possible, ensure that you go ahead and approach the National Assembly. First recommendation. Number two, the Nigerian people are watching. They want to see how you are also going to present yourself as a credible alternative in terms of how you also conduct your party primaries, how your candidate will emerge. Nigerians are also waiting to see how you are going to do that. That's a clear message so that they can make a clear decision as to what is going on. You must always engage the judiciary on all of the issues that are being put together. Fidelity to the law, although when we have an electoral act that gives option of obedience, then democracy will have problem. The law will die because nobody will obey that. So when you say that an option that if there is a network failure, of course there will be network failure in many places by 2027. So what you need to do is to protect the polling units, ensure that the results that are going to be produced at the polling unit, train your polling unit agent, have all of them there. You will insist on having the right process of winning, so that you also can have the right process to say you have lost election. Then, of course, today the Electoral Act has now given room for the people who now can produce what you call face document. It is political parties that usually submit candidates with face document. It is not usually not INEC. On the issue of violence, we have to be careful on that. But fundamentally, the role of security agencies, which I want to narrow down very quickly here. We have been getting reports across the country, and it's not the first time. Under the 2026 Electoral Act, political rally is a matter of rights as enshrined in the Constitution, in the Electoral Act. Section 99 says that all apparatus of states, at the state level, at the national level, in terms of civic center, television station, all of them belong to the people of this country. And that with respect to television, there must be equal airtime parity that must be given to all. And no political party or candidate should be denied access to any of this facility. It is guaranteed under the law. And interestingly, the Act now says that the only duty of police is to provide adequate security and not to grant permission. Police don't to grant permission. You cannot define police of your event as you have done here now, without necessarily have to talk about it. But then with respect to venue, the law also says that to address all issues of conflict of venue, what is required is to use the principle of first come, first serve. That is what has been asked to be done. So, as I close here, I want to say that in a democracy, no group of people are good enough to lead without the express view, support, mandate of Nigerian people. This is what best expresses the idea of democracy. Free, fair, and credible election is what gives spice and piquancy to the game of democracy. Democracy, free, fair, and credible election must not be only a slogan. It must be something that we all must be able to recognize as an obligation that all must do. No nation can rise above the value orientation of this nation. If we don't resolve the politics, we cannot resolve our economy. The politics is so key because the development decisions are embedded in politics and political process. And that is why the choice of people that we make in public government will determine whether we are going to make progress. So I want to say, by ending, that may we give an election where in this 2027, all of us will be able to say, as a people, as a country, that indeed we are able to give one thing for our people, which is nothing but the heritage of food, so that we can build a society where there will be opportunity for all and responsibility for all. Because the broad outline of the 21st century is very clear. It offers opportunity for people who can work together, live together, and develop new ties that bind them together by having a free, fair, and credible election. Thank you all.
Let me hear you. Put your hands together for our barrister. Can I hear you? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We wish we can give you more time. This issue of credible election is so important, so vital. And we thank you very, very much for that. We have one discussant on this. Because of the time factor, the others will be asked to kindly forgive us. So I now have the honor to call on Honorable Nnenna Ukeje, a member of the House of Representatives, to very graciously come as a discussant to say a few words. The other discussants can't be here with us. There's no time. Please join me. Put your hands together for Honorable Ukeje.
Thank you very much, sir. The former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the host of this event, Governor Seyi Makinde, thank you very much for availing us of your state and for putting yourself in trouble. And to all the excellencies here and all the leaders of all our political parties, for want of time, I shall make the list of protocol very short. I'd like to thank Mike Guinea for his very concise paper. But before I carry on, let me say that I am indeed very proud to be here. Because if we all look at the election results of the last elections, of what happened, of Vice President Atiku Abubakar, of my brother Peter Obi, of Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso, this is the winning team. The numbers put together gave 63% of all the votes that were cast, and the winning vote was 32%. So in this room here, we won the elections. And so when we speak about credibility of elections, I think it's imperative, first and foremost, for me to say that this is the first time I've listened to Mike Guinea because every time I see him on television, I stroll past, because he's so knowledgeable, and the facts are so dire that when I listen to him, it almost makes me throw up my hands in resignation that where we're going is a journey that is daunting. But he not only delivers a paper about the challenges of our democracy and the challenges of our elections, but he points out to us that though elections make democracy, they are only the tipping point of our democracy, and the conduct of elections are what actually make our democracy. He furthermore goes to tell us that the only good thing about democracy, or one of the greatest things about democracy, is that it is a self-correcting mechanism that corrects itself every 4 years, or 5 years, or however long, and that the credibility of our democracy leans heavily on the credibility of our elections. He goes further to tell us the challenges that we're likely to face. But he also points out and gives us, for want of time, I wouldn't want to sound repetitive, but I want to make the point that he says to us that what we must do collectively as the opposition is approach the National Assembly. That if we do not have laws that govern the way in which our elections are run, we might as well not have elections. He points out to us very clearly that when, and I think what he was trying to say, is that when you have ballot papers that have no security features, it means that I can print my ballot papers. And the conversation about some printing ballot papers is a thing of the past. That I can print my ballot papers, I can take my printed ballot papers, I can chuck them wherever I want to chuck them, and I can say that I won the election. It is very dire. And I think that we need to look at it. But my worry as well, and as someone who spent 12 years in the National Assembly, I do not want to believe that my colleagues in the National Assembly passed those laws. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that, again, the lawmaking process was rigged. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that the entire document could not have been a document that came out of the National Assembly. And if that document did come out of the National Assembly, then it is their responsibility to redeem themselves and amend that act. We will collectively come up with a class suit, I'm hoping, and send it to the National Assembly and demand that unless we have credible elections, unless we have a law that governs our elections, we might as well not have elections. Let me furthermore go on to say that Igini also reminds us that as political parties, it is our responsibility to show Nigerians that what it is that we complain about with the other parties, that we're above. That the conduct of our primaries shall be transparent, that our elections begin with the conduct of our primaries and ends with one party winning. That we shall show that we're committed to clarity, and everybody who has spoken before me has spoken about the fact that we must show clarity and transparency in the process. Let me again point out that Mike Igini has said to us that unless, and he says it in very subtle terms, that the consequences of bad elections are existential, they're not partisan. And therefore it is our responsibility as political parties to do the best things that we must do. He speaks to the judiciary, he speaks about the law of evidence, he speaks about clarity, but more than that as well, he speaks to the Nigerian citizens and charges us to ensure that we're part of the transparent process as we go into this electioneering. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together once more for Honorable Nana Okiji. The audacity of beauty and brains. I would like to yield the microphone to Professor Jerry Gana to make an intervention.
Your Excellencies, because of time, we did not allow all the chairmen to bring their goodwill messages because that would take us almost an hour. So we apologize very profusely. But in a setting like this, we certainly want to give the opportunity briefly to any of the other chairmen who would like to bring a word of greetings to this House to kindly indicate, and we shall allow them to do so. Therefore, permit me to call on Barrister Samuel Meme, the National Chairman of Democratic Leadership Alliance, to kindly bring a greeting before we proceed. Barrister, where is Barrister Meme? Kindly put your hands together for Barrister Meme. Thank you. Any other chairman that would like to bring a greeting, kindly meet me in that corner before we proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, leaders. Let me begin by respectfully acknowledging and celebrating the Executive Governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Seyi Makinde, for providing the platform for this very important and timely gathering. Distinguished leaders and stakeholders, there is no doubt that our democracy is under serious threat. What we are witnessing today is a systematic erosion of very principles that bind us together as a people. The APC-led government has not only failed to meet the expectations of Nigeria, but has also deepened division, encouraged instability, and weakened democratic institutions. It is increasingly evident that crises within opposition parties are not accidental. They are often instigated and celebrated. The intention is clear: to weaken the opposition ahead of the 2027 general election and create a one-sided political landscape that is dangerous for any democracy. The time for unity among opposition parties is now. Not tomorrow, not later, now. We must rise above our differences and act with purpose, strategy, and determination. This summit must not just be another meeting. It must be the beginning of a coordinated and deliberate effort to chart a new course for Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Leadership Alliance, the DLA, stand firmly committed to this cause. We are fully ready to collaborate with all opposition parties to rescue our country from what can only be described as a government that has brought untold hardship, insecurity, and economic strain upon Nigerians. This administration has demonstrated a lack of clear ideas on how to govern effectively. What we see instead is self-centered leadership, growing poverty, rising insecurity, and a system that appears indifferent to the suffering of the people. Distinguished colleagues, leaders, the Democratic Leadership Alliance, the DLA platform, is a platform built on integrity, vision, and youthful energy. Out of 171 applications received by the INEC, ours was the only party that met all legal requirements and was duly registered on the 5th of April 2026. We are proud to say that 98% of our founding members are under the age of 30 years. This reflects a bold and forward-looking movement driven by young Nigerians who are ready to sacrifice, innovate, rebuild this nation. In the interest of unity and national progress, we are willing to put everything on the table, including this virgin political platform, if it will serve as a rallying point for a united opposition and help avoid unnecessary litigations, often sponsored by desperate politicians and actors. No matter the path we collectively choose, the DLA remains resolute in its commitment to promoting unity among opposition political parties in Nigeria. Our symbol, the golden pen, represents our mission to rewrite the story of Nigeria for the better. A story of justice, prosperity, security, and hope. Let me conclude by saying this. Desperate times demand decisive and collective action. We must be united in purpose, objective in our decision, and selfless our approach. Personal ambitions must give way to national interest. The oppressed, the vulnerable, the struggling masses of Nigeria are looking up to us. They are counting on us to rise to lead and to deliver them from the hardship they face daily. We must remain focused. We must speak with one voice. And above all, we must act with courage. I am confident that if we stay united and committed, we will succeed for the sake of our country and for the generations yet upon. Thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please put your hands once more together for our distinguished chairman. May I invite Alhaji Hashim Ibrahim Imam, who will he will lead us for a minute or two on the second plenary session.
Your Excellency, Chief Post, Governor Sheyi Makinde, the last governor standing, Your Excellency, the former Vice President, Your Excellencies, the Chairman of all the political parties here present, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while these are very sad times in our country, I'm nonetheless happy to have the privilege to stand before us here today to chair the second and third sessions of this summit. Our presence here speaks volumes. The fact that the entire leadership of all the opposition political parties are united and are represented here on behalf of all the people they represent. The second and third sessions are dedicated to two very critical, and what I concur that the integrity of elections matters. Today, the most critical, most topical issues confronting Nigerians are the issue of insecurity and the economic hardship that all Nigerians are passing through. I stand before you without fear of being contradicted to declare that this is the worst government in our entire history as a nation. Not so. I can't hear you. Not so. What did the president tell us about insecurity? He said within 6 months it will become history. Within 6 months he will restore security. In 3 years, more than 10,000 Nigerians have lost their lives, and more are dying every day. In Jos, he told us, and he told the people of the plateau, that from that day on, not one single life will be lost, that he will be on top of the security situation. less than 24 hours after he left Patrol, several Nigerians lost their lives. Not even during the sad days of the Civil War did so many Nigerians die, 10,000, and we are still counting. On the economy, again, we've never had it this bad. Now, I'm conscious, one, of time, two, and we've invited experts who will come before us to address these critical topics. And first on our list is Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security risk management expert who in recent times has become an authority of sorts on the problems of insecurity ravaging the length and breadth of our country. It is my singular honor and privilege to invite him to deliver his paper. Dr. Kabiru Adamu, please.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Executive Governor of Oyo State, our Chief Host, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to have this opportunity to speak to you on a topic that, just like Alhaji Kashim mentioned, is a topic that is on the front burner of our national discourse today. No doubt, between the months of January and March, over 2,300 Nigerians have been killed in just 3 months. Over 1,700 plus Nigerians have been abducted. And these are Nigerians who were abducted in the course of their daily life. So permit me, before I start my speech, to please join me. Let's observe a 1-minute silence in offering prayer to these 2,000 persons that have been killed, and then these families of this 1,000. So please help me in standing up. A 1-minute silence. Thank you very much. May those that have been killed, may their souls rest in peace, and those that are still in detention, may God Almighty bring them out. You can take your seats. Thank you. So I had prepared a presentation, but because of time and of course some of the challenges with technology, I won't be able to have that presentation. So what I'm going to do is to summarize that presentation. Over time, at least in this Fourth Republic, there have been attempts to address the security challenge. I think let's not kid ourselves around that. Successive governments have attempted to, but what I have seen as the challenge is that we're addressing the symptoms and not necessarily the drivers and the root causes of those insecurities. So what I've done in my presentation is to look at, first and foremost, what do we have in place to address the security challenge? What are those drivers and root causes? Why is it that successive governments over time have not been able to address the challenge? And then, of course, the more important question is, what are we recommending to address these security challenges going forward? So starting with my recommendation, we're saying that we can do basically 4 things to address the security challenge. Number one, and I will be unequivocal in making this recommendation, we need to contain the violence. We must contain the violence. There are, at least to my knowledge, active groups that are in one way or the other challenging the supremacy of the use of force by the state. There is no state that can survive when you have non-state actors that are challenging the supremacy. So number one is to contain that violence. And I've provided recommendations on how to contain that violence. On the one hand, we need kinetic approaches. On the other hand, we need non-kinetic approaches. Unfortunately, the challenge is this. We mount these techniques. We mount kinetic, and then we mount non-kinetic. My recommendation is let's move away from just mounting to actual implementation of these recommendations. We do not lack the solutions. The solutions are out there, but the challenge has always been one of implementation. Number two is we must build peace within our communities. So all the peace-building mechanisms, in particular our justice system, that today has become almost ineffective. And this transcends not just the formal justice system, also our traditional justice system. We must revamp those justice systems. And then, of course, added to that is the need for economic growth. That we cannot speak about security if we do not address the challenges of economic challenges affecting our communities. So issues, for instance, around unemployment, around poverty, around out-of-school children, the skill sets that are lacking from within our population, we must address them if we're going to move forward from that. And then, of course, we must promote regional harmonization. Without those regional harmonizations, we're not going to move forward. So having said that, the next thing I try to look at is the consequence of this. We have what we describe as the national security apparatus. And this national security apparatus is divided into three. First, we have the MDAs. The MDAs are divided into about 42, all in all. You have the coordinating element, which is the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Ministers of Defense, the Ministers of Interior, Ministers of Police Affairs. And then you now have under them different departments and agencies. But the challenge is that as contained in our Constitution, which is Section 14, subsection 2 of the Constitution, that speaks about the responsibility of government to protect lives and property. Unfortunately, over time, these MDAs, about 42 of them, we haven't seen them working together in synergy to provide this key element within our Constitution. In other words, the pathway that would lead into Section 14, subsection 2 of our Constitution. Sadly, over time, that pathway has either been blocked or has become ineffective. So if we're going to change the narrative, if we're going to see an effective security system, we must have those 42 working in synergy to provide Section 14, subsection 2 of the Constitution. Without that, it will be almost impossible to achieve the elements of that provision within our Constitution. And I think sadly that is where we are at the moment. The second very important element is the instrument, the laws, the policies that define the activities of this organization. Now, unfortunately, over time, we've also seen challenges with regards to that. Sometimes the lack of delineation of the functions of this organization, and in other times, the inability for the elements, especially those who are occupying the offices, to understand the provisions of those instruments. I'll give you an example. The National Security Council, which is one of those elements. The last time the National Security Council sat is over a year ago. In fact, in this administration, it has sat perhaps only once. And if that is the highest body that is supposed to superintend and provide direction for security, and yes, it's not sitting, then little wonder that we're where we are. The third element, which is also absolutely important, is the element of partnership. At the moment, the partnership, of course, as we all know, security remains in the exclusive list. And because it remains in the exclusive list, the need for partnership is absolutely important. At the subnational level, partnership between the federal and the state government, partnership between the state government and the local government, and then more importantly, having a kind of partnership that recognizes that we have over 8,000 wards in this country, where, for instance, if there is a threat element, imagine in any of these 8,000 plus wards, that it will be recognized from an early warning system, and it will be addressed immediately before it becomes Boko Haram. Of course, Boko Haram started it started small, and because it was mismanaged, we're where we are at the moment. So having a partnership that does that is absolutely important. So that's one level of partnership. The second level of partnership is with our international partners, which we've tried over time to establish that level of partnership, but unfortunately the definition of that partnership is not clear to the average Nigerian. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. When Ghana entered into an agreement with the United States of America, that's our next door neighbor, they put that agreement on the website. You can go today and you will see the status of force agreement between the United States and Ghana. Today in Nigeria there is no clarity in terms of what the agreement we have between us and the United States. So that a partnership that would function is a partnership that has the involvement of the executive arm of government, of the legislative arm of government, and more importantly of the judicial arm of government. Unfortunately, we are awakened to a situation where that clarity is no longer obvious within our political space. So I think it's absolutely important that we progress, that we see that level of partnership. I've been told that my time is up, so I will just conclude by saying that it is possible to have a secured Nigeria. But to have such a secured Nigeria, we must, especially, and I'm very delighted that you invited technocrats, so permit me to speak the truth to you. The political class, I say this with all sense of responsibility, holds the key to a secured Nigeria. Why is that? That is because the accountability that is missing within our security sector lies with the political class. If 2,370 Nigerians have been killed in 3 months and not a single member of the security sector has been held responsible, then the political class must look itself in the mirror and say so. So we're hoping that going forward, we will see more accountability. First, in terms of operational accountability, where you are able to measure the performance of anyone that you appoint into leadership position within the security sector. Secondly, is financial accountability. If the security sector has become a conduit for siphoning public funds, again with all sense of responsibility. And anyone who is in doubt should look at our last budget. From the previous administration, when security sector was getting less than 1 trillion naira, to the current year when it got more than 5 trillion naira, yet the trajectory has been sliding. It will tell you clearly that it's become a conduit for siphoning public funds. So we must enhance financial accountability. 2 things, operational accountability and financial accountability. If we do this, believe me, within 3 to 6 months, our security challenges will be addressed. So again, I'm a technocrat, I am non-partisan. This is the truth if we are going to change the trajectory of security in Nigeria. Thank you very much for giving me this.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him. A round of applause for him. He's speaking to us about security. 2 more to go, and if I confer with the chairman, we can make some adjustments. And very briefly, and also very briefly, we have one discussant also for this session. We, the organizers, are very mindful, and we are also very gender sensitive. All the 3 speakers are men, so it is only befitting that all the 3 discussants are women, and to speak to this topic on behalf of all Nigerian mothers, all Nigerian women, we've nominated an Amazon in her own right in the person of Hajia Inna Chiroma, former Minister of Women Affairs. I'm pleading that you make it just 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Hajia Inna Chiroma.
الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. Your Excellency, the Independent Governor of Oyo State, Governor Sheyi Makinde, Your Excellency, our former Vice President, Your Excellency, the Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Kabiru Tanimutu Pakistan, Your Excellency, the former President of the Senate, His Excellency David Mark, distinguished members of all the opposition parties here. Honestly, this gathering is one gathering that Nigerians will be very, very proud of today. We are very proud of this gathering because it has shown that Nigerian leaders are concerned about their country. Today, what Nigeria is facing, we cannot just pretend that things are okay. Things are not okay. And Nigeria as a country that we all belong to, we cannot afford to be slaves in our own country. Therefore, this gathering is very, very important. And when we are talking about the insecurity in this country, honestly, for me, I feel so disheartened that we are facing this insecurity. Nigeria, a country that before our security agencies go to other countries to save those countries from insecurity. But today, where are we? Today, where are we? Therefore, this issue of insecurity, in fact, is enough for Nigerians to come together to rescue their country. Because we can't just afford to allow this country to go the way it is going. Because when you are talking about good governance, you are talking about peace and security. Good governance means peace and security. Do we have peace? Do we have security? No. And honestly, the women of Nigeria today, we are the gender that is most affected by the insecurity. How? How? Because as a mother in your house, you are scared for your children to even go out. As a wife, if your husband goes out to go and look for food for the family, you are scared whether the man will come back home or not. Therefore, when we are talking of insecurity in Nigeria, honestly, Nigerian women, we must all come together to ensure that we can sleep in our own houses. Because if there is peace in this country, it's the women that will benefit. And also, insecurity affects economic development in a country. Because as it is, before Nigeria, we export cotton, we export foodstuffs. In Kano, we used to have what we call the pyramids. But today, where are they? Can people go and farm? Can Nigeria export? No, we can't export. If you can't export, how do you generate resources? Therefore, insecurity is also affecting the economic development of our country. Therefore, my great leaders of all the opposition political parties, we must forget about our personal interests and think about Nigeria. Think about our children. Think about our grandchildren. Because as far as we are concerned, we have benefited. What of the people that are coming after us? Therefore, we must forget about our personal interests and focus on Nigeria. How do we rescue Nigeria from this current government that does not care about anybody? My dear leaders, when PDP was in government, I'm sorry to bring this issue, PDP encouraged opposition parties. When APC was being formed, PDP was in government. Did PDP try to kill that formation of APC? No. But look at what's going on today. Because the government is scared of other political parties, they are trying to kill all the other political parties. We say no. Nigeria belongs to all of us, and we can't be slaves in our own country. We must have our own voice. And our own voice means having an opposition political parties coming together to fight for the rights of Nigerians. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hajia Inna Shiroma. I've been advised that I should announce on behalf of the organizers that we are determined to bring this summit to an end in precisely 1 hour at 4 o'clock. This is most especially so because we are told that the airport will be closing at 5. So we are going to be very business-like. The last paper presentation, befittingly, is on the economy. And I have a very simple question for us. Are Nigerians today financially better off than we were 3 years ago? I can't hear you. Are we today financially better off than we were 3 years ago? We are told that the problem we had was fuel subsidy, and that was the removal of the subsidy will be the magic wand. Once fuel subsidy is removed, all our problems will disappear. So fuel subsidy was removed. Our problem disappeared. Has it not compounded? In 3 years, this government has borrowed $30 billion US. It has never happened in our history. May I invite to deliver the paper on the economy a renowned expert, a statesman, a scholar, a teacher, in the person of Professor Pat Utomi. Welcome, Prof.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this moment is special for me because it goes to the heart of what will give our children the future that they deserve. Let me say that I will bring my presentation, which will be as brief as possible. I've written a very significantly long paper, but I shall not read it at all. I will speak to it, and I'll speak to it in 3 parts. And the first part, which I call a preamble, speaks to how I came here and the consequence for the Nigerian economy. The second part is a prologue, which speaks to Ibadan and the place that Ibadan, my growing up in Ibadan, has for the economic challenges we face in Nigeria today. And the third part is the heart of the question of where do we go from here as an economy. Well, let me start by saying that yesterday I started out from Lagos and I went to fill my tank for the drive to Ibadan. And as I was doing that, I was actually reading a report just published by Piggy Vest, the savings report on Nigeria. And that report indicated that about 58% of us earn less than 100,000 naira a month. 58% of the people of this country. And I found that I had just spent nearly 250,000 naira to fill my tank. And as I was reflecting on that, a motorcade just streamed past, about like a 7-car motorcade. And my head just went, that is the monthly salary of 20 people that is going there just to go to Ibadan. Now, if that doesn't show you absurdity, nothing more will. But in looking at that, I began to also think about quality of life in our country, cost of living. We know that Nigerians spend a significant proportion of their resources on food just to keep body and soul together. We have heard from the security experts who came just before me that agriculture is troubled because of security. And so for many of these people, the cost of food is rising. And I look at this groaning, the pain in the land, which you can literally see as you walk on the streets of Nigeria. And I hear people say to me that we must hope. That if we give a little more time, hope will return. And I say this is a lie from the very depths of hell. And I do not say that just to express an emotional outburst from the painful realities of now. I take example from Nigerian history. In 1956, there was hardly any industry in Nigeria. Colonial Nigeria did not industrialize Nigeria. Understandably, because it was for the export of raw materials to Europe. But by 1956, 1957, self-government came. And young Nigerian men and women who take on the reins of government recognized that their country needed to be industrialized if they were going to provide jobs for people. Within 3 years, and independence, and I'm not going to go into all that, you can read Pius Okibo and Nigerian Public Accounts and all of that. Manufacturing had gone from next to zero to 20% of GDP. How did they do it? And 3 years after a government, they are telling us to be patient. But I will get to the analysis of that much later. I want to say that what I feel, the lived experiences of people tell me that something is fundamentally wrong with a system that says to poor people, be patient. And those who are saying be patient to them are buying new jets. And those who are saying be patient to them are buying new fleets of cars. And those who are saying be patient while these people are dying are buying yachts. Economic injustice in Nigeria will cripple all of us if we don't do something very quickly. And so that's my preamble, that the conscience is challenged by this reality. And I go to my prologue. My prologue goes to the fact that I had the great privilege of growing up down the road, less than 2-3 miles from here. I went to school here in Ibadan, in a college called Loyola College. And when I was at Loyola College, just as I was finishing, there was a riot, not a riot, there was a demonstration by students at the University of Ibadan. One student, Kunle Adigbeju, was killed by police bullets. For several years, Nigerian students continued to rise seeking justice for that. And when I arrived at the University of Nigeria in 1973, the first thing that I did was become part of the leadership of protests to get justice for Kunle Adigbeju. Today, children, young people in the universities cannot speak up because they say that every time they come out to express themselves, they are slaughtered by law enforcement agencies. Can this be the same country that we live in? A second point about my time in Ibadan and what we are seeing is that back in those days, we saw Nigeria begin to industrialize, as I said, in 1956-57. And that industrialization provided for all, as we grew up, we took it for granted that if you left school, there was a job for you. And I walk around today and young people feel that they will never have a job. I have people who have been out of university 10 years applying for jobs. And now they don't even know what it is to find work. Another thing that my time in Loyola College did to me, and I always remember it, when I see the remarkable secretary of the ADC, is that my mates in class sang their own Oriki to remind themselves of whose sons they are. Two Omoluabis, people of character. We came to school to be people of character. And here in Ibadan, not only was Loyola a flying example of that, but even our competition down the road, Government College Ibadan, managed to do the same. And being privileged to have had some of them, like Dr. Christopher Kolade as mentor, his classmates like Professor Ladikwa Akikube, live out in the reality of their lives that character. I can tell you for free that the problem of Nigerian economy is a lack of character in those who are running it today. Because if there is no character, you cannot build trust. Uncertainty sets in. And I can tell you as a man who wrote a book titled Managing Uncertainty, Conviction and Strategy in Emerging Economies, that a big part of the challenge of today's economy is that you cannot trust policy. You do not know if it is aimed for private interest or to advance the common good. And so that lesson from my days in Ibadan has come out to matter very significantly. I would like therefore to say that because of the recognition of the importance of character, even a school in Owerri borrowed a motto that says this, and I can't give you full because I used to use it to illustrate to businessmen how to run the world. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. I've seen people who have become billionaires and gone bankrupt and become billionaires again. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, all is lost. And the tragedy of the moment in Nigeria is that character has been lost in a remarkable way. My parents recognize this and they chose Catholic education to get that out. Because they made that choice, I was first going to get into St. John's in Kaduna. It was the leading Catholic school in northern Nigeria. When the challenges of 1966 made me move back south, and I started in the leading Catholic school in Eastern Region, Christ the King's College, Onitsha. And when the Civil War started, I moved west and came to the leading Catholic school in Western Nigeria, Loyola College, Ibadan. And so I know a thing or two about character, and that character matters. And when I look at the challenge of character in the building of Nigerian economy, I recognize that we need a new beginning. We need to flush out people who lack character, to put in place, to run Nigeria, people of character. And so to the third part, over this, where do we go from here? Let me say that one of the big problems with those who run the Nigerian economy is that they don't know the Nigerian people. And one of the good fortunes that I have had is that I know Nigeria. As I say often and with pride, I was born in Kaduna, baptized in Jos, spent part of my infancy in Maiduguri, started school in Kano, and finished primary education in Guzo before coming to Onitsha. I know Nigeria, and I know that every part of Nigeria is endowed enough to be a wellspring of wealth for everybody. I keep saying that I can go to any state in Nigeria and have a personal friend in whose house I can sleep. Because many people have not done this to themselves. I was telling Mohammed Hayatuddin, who I'm sitting next to there, if I go to Maiduguri, I will sleep in his house. If I come to Ibadan, they'll be dragging where I will go to sleep and all of that. And so you don't feel the people. Unless you can feel the people, understand the people, you will not be able to commit to building the economy. And so the challenge of economic development in Nigeria It's a challenge of not getting validation from Washington and Paris. It's a challenge of feeding the people and recognizing that central to economic development are those people. Economics must be people-centered. The troubles that we have today is that we say that our needs are for the purposes of growth to go into economic stabilization. I say that is a lie. Why do I say it is a lie? I was one of those who spoke the grammar in this country in the 80s about economic stabilization. I can go to economic books and I tell you about how we use concepts like the J-curve to explain stabilization. But what happened? Did the growth come? After privatization, which made some people rich, after financial service restructuring, which made some people rich, the growth did not come. So I spent time in Asia, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Indonesia, and all those places, trying to understand what they did differently. I was at the World Bank annual meeting in Hong Kong in October 1997, where the thing came to a head. I remember the split between Mahathir Ibn Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia, and his Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Anwar Ibrahim. In October 1997, I wrote a piece from Jakarta, published in The Guardian, that was titled The End of Anwar Ibrahim. It was about how a misordered understanding of those policies from the Washington Consensus split these two people. And Western media tried to push Anwar Ibrahim forward. But what do we know? Of course, the police of Malaysia pushed out Anwar. A few years later, the same IMF would say that Mahathir Mohamad's choice was the better choice. So I long rejected those stabilization policies. They said these people do not understand our economies. What we have going for us is that Nigeria is a richly endowed country. And that from every single part of Nigeria, there are factor endowments whose value chains can make us one of the richest people on earth. But our politicians have been too lazy, far too lazy to do the needful. If I go to Sokoto and take gum Arabic and take any of those date palms and all of that and construct a chemical industry, Sokoto can be richer than Rivers State. If I go to Yola, Waziri's neighborhood, and take the endowment of that flora and fauna, we can create a corridor that is richer than any part of southern Nigeria. If I come to Rivers, I can take the hydrocarbons value chain and build a global enterprise. But our politicians have been too lazy. The weight of oil and the cost of oil inflicts on us a no-growth economy. And we impoverish our people and we get called the poverty capital of the world. We must turn this around. A few fundamental things we have to do. Let's ask ourselves, what did the Chinese do that changed the course in 1978 from being worse than us to much, much better than us today? What did Deng Xiaoping do? Go and read the speeches he gave in 1978, especially the speech he gave in December 1978 at the Congress of the Chinese people. And you will see the importance of education, and people of knowledge. Here we have a political class that says that grammar will go chop and we are dying of hunger. Yes, grammar is the basis for our getting ahead and moving forward. If our people are properly enlightened and given the way forward. Suharto in Indonesia, he had a group of economists that were basically trained at University of California at Berkeley. I said they were called the Berkeley Mafia. In the early 1960s, they were saying to the Indonesians, if only you could be like Nigeria. By the 1990s, they were saying to Nigeria, if only you could be like Indonesia. Why did this reversal of fortunes come to us? I believe the time is now to get rid of those who want Washington to validate them and get people who want their people to start. And this challenge is the challenge I bring to you. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And the people are saying to us, go forward, take this country and renew it. And God will help us renew the face of the earth. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much Professor Pat Utomi for that most brilliant presentation. We weren't expecting anything less. Shall we all clap for him, please? Now, the very last but not the least discussant. This time, I left the card out of the bag earlier that all the three discussants are women, are ladies. So we've heard from two. Now, the final discussant. She's not just a lady, female, but a brilliant young girl. So she will also be speaking for all the youth of Nigeria, men and women. This young lady is very exceptionally brilliant, with masters in economics from Valencia, with executive MBA from Rome. In addition to being exceptionally brilliant, she is also very, very hardworking, extremely so. In the past couple of weeks and in recent days that we worked closely on organizing this summit, I grew to know her and to respect her. Oftentimes, we close our sessions, 2 a.m., she'll be there. 3 a.m., she'll be there. May I invite to the podium Ms. Sarah Ibrahim to speak on behalf of all Nigerian youths. And it's most befitting that she is going to speak on the economy. She's an economist with a master's degree in economics. Sarah Ibrahim.
Thank you, Dr. Kashin. All protocols duly observed. His Excellency Dr. Sheyi Makinde, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. I want to first of all thank Professor Pat Utomi for that brilliant paper on the economy and what we are currently facing in our dear country. He made a very, very strong statement when he said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. The voice of the people is also the voice of power. The first question I want to ask each and every one of us sitting today as leaders in our various perspectives and as stakeholders, is our economy a pass or a failure currently, today? The youths of Nigeria are the most affected people of Nigeria's economy today. Currently in our country, we have 80 million Nigerian youths who are out of jobs. Not people who cannot work. People who have the ability to work but cannot find a job. 80 million Nigerian youths. In recent years, more youths have been impoverished in Nigeria than in any other country of the world. And we have also been ranked as the worst place to live in. And I'm very sure that if our economy was thriving, like they are making us to believe, we would not currently be the worst place to live in the world. We are even nicknamed the world's capital of poverty. All of that must change. All of that needs to change. And the time to change it is now. Nigeria currently has the highest number of poor people in the world. 141 million Nigerians are poor in a country of 200 million people. 141 million Nigerians currently cannot find food to eat. In a country of 200 million people That is more than half of our population. Is that a pass or a fail? In 2022, before the coming of this government, our GDP stood at $477 billion. By 2025, they came with a new word. They said they are rebasing. These are the same people. Before they came to power, they asked us one question. Now statistics we go chop. Today our economy is so bad. Every day what they do now is dish out statistics. We are all now eating statistics. In 2025, currently, our GDP has fallen to $285 billion. Even after the rebasing, that is a 40% decrease in just 2 years. So what exactly is this government doing with our economy? And the people who face this the most, every single day of their lives, are the Nigerian youths. Today we have over 20 million out of school children. Not because they do not want to go to school, not because they are not capable to read, but because they cannot even afford to go to school. And what is this government doing about it? We are currently ranked as the 4th most terrorized country in the world. 4th, our insecurity is so bad that it affects our daily lives. Just last week, we saw little kids who were about to go and write their youth May exams, and they couldn't get there because they were carried on the road. They call it banditry. Speaking about banditry, our economy now, for every person that is doing business, I'm sure if I ask right now, how many of us are currently living our daily lives through the businesses that we do? More than half of us raise our hands. But how many of us use electricity to do business? Each and every one of us will raise our hand. They've changed everything from band A to band B to band C. But sadly, in the country we are now all bandits because we're living in darkness. Each business in the country right now, we are all living in darkness. So where is the band A? Where is the band B? Where is the band C? Our businesses are suffering. This same president protested when fuel was 141 naira. Today, fuel is 1,450 naira. Where is his protest? The same president protested when dollar was 460 naira. Today, dollar is above 1,400 naira. That is a 95% increase. Where is the protest? I think at this rate, our current president needs to start protesting against himself. Because if the opposition leaders even want to speak, our civic rights and our civic duties are even trampled on. Our investments currently in the country is even very terrible. So we want each and every one of us as leaders to come together to ensure that the Nigerian youth get things right. To ensure that the Nigerian youth have a country that works, a country that functions, a country where people can afford food, where the economy can thrive, where people can go to school, where our economy can stand. And I want to plead with each and every one of us here as leaders of opposition parties, as we come together today, please and please, history will not remember this summit. No. History will remember the outcomes that will come out from this summit. Let it be our decision today would be to come out together, stronger than ever, not just to save me or to save yourself, but for your children, for us, for our future. Because we need to get on the same train, on a train to move Nigeria forward. So I have this last request to our current president. We are all, as opposition leaders, on a moving train to make Nigeria better. And he has just 2 options, only 2. It's either he resigns and joins this moving train, or he gets out of our way. Thank you.
Nigerians, we all want a Nigeria that works for everyone, not for a few. I think that is the most important message. We desperately want a Nigeria that works for everybody. And the only way we'll have that Nigeria is how Tinubu must go. Let him just leave so that we have a country that works for all of us. This is our collective demand. Have I spoken for all of us? Thank you. Now, you've seen too much of me. I'm now going to take my exit from the stage. May I, at this stage, invite the gentlemen from all the parties who have brilliantly, professionally, and wonderfully anchored today's event, and Ini and Ladan to do the needful. While the speeches and the speakers were addressing us, we have constituted a small committee to work on a communique. And I believe that that communique is ready. But it is not in my place to present it to you. There are very senior party leaders here whose responsibility it is to come forward to do the presentation. May I hand over the mic to Ini to invite our chairman. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. May God grant us joining mercies.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when the co-chairman speaks and you are walking towards him, you have to keep a distance so that you can't measure your height with him. It was Henry Longfellow who said, "Great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending." All of what we have done, if we knew at this point, we would have done nothing. And therefore, the constellation, the seeping, the crystallization of all we have done is what we're about to do now. And maybe that is why Shakespeare himself said, "All is well that ends well." Because if for any reason, while Alhaji Kashim was speaking, something happened and we left, they would say we had gathered, yes. They would say we had discussed, yes. The question is, what did we agree? And like Sarah said, we will not be remembered for what we discussed. We remember for what we agreed. And that is why Kabiru Turaki has said that we must have an accord. We must have a declaration and an agreement. Therefore, on behalf of Ladan, my only single duty at this moment is to invite the two gentlemen who were co-chairmen and all other national chairmen who are here to please come for the presentation of the community. My honor, therefore, to invite His Excellency, Distinguished Senator David Bonaventure, His Excellency Kabiru Turaki, to lead their colleagues for the presentation of the community, which is the crystallization of the things we have discussed and agreed here. Without this, all of the things we have done would have come to naught. So please, shall we invite them as they come with their colleagues? Chairman, National Chairman, representative of National Chairman, to please come for the presentation of the community. If our hands are not too busy, I'm sure we can give them a hand clap that encourages them to finish quickly so that we can go through.
Please, other chairmen of other political parties in attendance should please come up to the stage to support the rendition of the community.
Your Excellencies, distinguished leaders, distinguished invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for a couple of hours this afternoon, we sat down out of pure patriotism for the love of our nation to listen to an array of discussants who have spoken to us
on a number of key issues that will propel our country forward. We've spoken about decayed and decaying infrastructure in Nigeria. We've spoken about collapsed economy and what can be done to revamp our economy. We've listened to experts who have spoken about the issues of insecurity in this country and how thousands of lives are being lost without any remedial steps being taken by government. We've also listened to ourselves when we spoke about issues bordering on hounding and pounding on opposition elements, issues related to injustice, issues relating to unfairness, issues relating to inequity, issues relating to Muslim, an attempt to kill multi-party democracy in our country. And having agreed unanimously from the suggestions that leaders have made this afternoon, the team of rapporteurs have came up with a draft which we, the leaders of the opposition political parties, or our representatives have examined and are satisfied with what we are now reading out as the Ibadan Declaration.
Wasallallahu ala nabi karim mai girma mai daraja gwamnan jihar Kebbi, His Excellency Comrade Dr. Nasir Idris Kauran Gwandu, gwarzon daular Usmaniya Sardaunan Doso, da dukkanin tawaga mai girma gwamnan jihar Kebbi. Ba tare da bata lokaci ba, a wannan lokaci ina so amfani da wannan dama in gayyaci Isa Abubakar a Salafi domin ya bude muna wannan majalisi da addu'a.
صلوا على النبي الكريم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
الحمد لله. A hali yanzu zai amfani da wannan dama in gayyaci shugaban jam'iyyar APC na jihar Kebbi, Alhaji Abubakar Muhammad Kanazuru, Ganuwan Zuru, Shatiman Manga, makaman ushe domin ya zo ya gabatar da jawabin maraba. Kamin iso ciyaman ɗinmu na jam'iyyar APC, ina son in amfani da wannan dama in yi taken jam'iyyar APC. APC! 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 Jihar Kebbi! Jihar Kebbi! Mai girma ciyaman Alhaji Abubakar Kanazuru, Ganuwa Zuru, sai ka zo domin gabatar da jawabin maraba.
Muhammad Kanazuru, Muhammad Kanazuru, ka taso da ikon Allah, ka timan manga, ka taso da izinin Allah domin ka gabatar da naka jawabi a wannan lokacin. Mai girma ciyaman, mai girma ciyaman. Muhammad Kanazuru, Shatiman Manga, Ganuwa Zuru na farko, Saddaunan Magoro, fagacin dabai, dokajin kalgo, sai ka taso da izinin Allah domin ka gabatar jawabinka. Jawabin maraba, jawabi irin na uwaye. Ke jama'ar jihar Kebbi. Kebbi muna da local government 21, muna da mazaba 225 mai girma gwamnan jihar Kebbi. Muna da mazaba 225 mai girma gwamnan jihar Kebbi. Muna da ruwa 3,743 mai jihar Kebbi. Wayannan mutane su suka yi karuru suka zo jihar Kebbi don su ƙara nuna maka goyon bayansu da kai da shugaban ƙasar Najeriya da kuma kai ƙauren gwandu. Wannan shi ne ma'anar wannan haɗuwa don a ƙara jaddada maka goyon bayan shugaban ƙasa da goyon bayan ka mai girma gwamnan jihar Kebbi. Alhamdulahi kuma muna ƙara godewa Allah kuma muna kira